I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in the Season 2 finale of The Last of Us. So if you haven't watched that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to HBO Max, check out that episode, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from the Season 2 finale of The Last of Us, it's Jon Jon Rico!
Hey, I have no hair on my face.
Hey, you have no hair on your face! What the fuck?
I'm the same person, I swear.
I kept saying before we started recording that we could just get you like a fake beard or like some of that fake stuff that you can put on your face. And make it
I got one of those like glasses and fake mustache with the nose things.
I'd say we had a special guest. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, fuck your community.
Yeah.
Fuck the community!
Yeah.
I was trying to think of taglines for this one. That's the only one I could think of.
Nice.
Ellie screaming that. But not our community. We love our community.
Yeah, we love ours. But,
Yeah.
Everybody else's.
Ours is watching this and giving us views and likes, so we really appreciate that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and become part of our community. But anyway, Season 2 finale of The Last of Us. Holy shit, so many things happened in this. More than I thought they were going to be able to jam pack into what kind of felt like a relatively short episode. Like it wasn't really any shorter, but it just kind of, I guess, because so many things happened, it just felt shorter than some of the other episodes. Yeah, I almost had to like take an extra day to kind of decompress before I even put anything down on the rundown of what I wanted to talk about, just because I was like, okay, then that happened, so that means this has to happen later, like and just a lot. But there's so many things to actually talk about in this, one of which I get to finally say that we've been right about a theory. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, Rico, what were some of your instant reactions for the Season 2 finale?
Yeah, a lot indeed did happen in this finale. That like you said, like I was almost I was a little concerned that they weren't going to be able to fit this much into the finale, and I thought they were kind of able to a degree. But at the end of the day, I still kind of wish that we would have gotten at least like 1 to 2 more episodes to get some of these moments just a little bit more fleshed out. But I could also see why they did. They approached it the way they did, just because of the way they've kind of formatted the story compared to how they've done it in the games before. There's a lot of kind of like things just being moved around, just so it's kind of more, I guess, chronologically told. So I do enjoy that aspect of it. There's a few things in this episode that I really like to see, just as far as like camera shots that I know it's going to lead to something we're going to see later on too.
Right.
There's a particular shot, I think, with Ellie and Jesse are walking. I don't know if it's just Ellie. But they see it often like in kind of like the Seattle kind of horizons there. You see the two skyscrapers with the cranes going across it. And I was like, oh, we're going to see that later on at some point. So that's pretty cool. And I was like, I just like the way they kind of like hide things in the background, in the foreground, that you know it's going to come back to it later. We talk about another thing too with Ellie at the island too, with the Seraphites too, how like you can just see that they're putting things in place to get you thinking about things before we see them possibly later on. So I think that's really cool. I was doing a lot of setup. But yeah, there was a lot of different kind of tone jumps in this too. Like obviously we're getting a lot of great character moments as well, but there's a lot of heavy emotional stuff that happens in this episode too. And of course they got a lot of stuff that just catches you straight up by surprise. I was trying to think of how much like infected we got in this episode. Like not a ton. It was really just kind of like a character based episode. We probably got some scenes where they were like in there at one point, but it was mainly like wolves, Seraphites, and our main characters, I feel like. So I thought it was really cool, just kind of getting us used to a lot of different the human factions in the world and stuff like that, like knowing that these are going to kind of be a bigger story later on. Hopefully like a little bit more fleshed out in the game too. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to stuff like that. But overall, I was happy with the finale, but also just like left myself wishing it was the season was still going. I guess because I think 7 episodes is just a really short season.
Yeah, I mean, and here's hoping we kind of get a longer season 3 and kind of, have time to breathe on certain moments and expand on things that we actually, want to see expanded on and stuff like that. We can take some more time with at least a couple more episodes type of thing. But you want to get to some big takeaways?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right. Why don't you kick off big takeaways?
Okay. A couple things I really did like. I do like the dynamic between Ellie and Jesse in this too, because I feel like we don't get as much of them talking about the fact that Dina is pregnant and stuff,
Right.
and even or just Jesse just kind of confronting the idea that he's going to become a father before ultimately what happens to him. Unfortunately, I just think it's obviously like a kind of a TV thing where they kind of foreshadow a life that they'll never really get, and of course something bad ends up happening to him, like the classic the policeman who's about to retire, and on his last day he ends up getting dead or something like that. But I just like kind of like that dynamic that they kind of play off of each other, because of course Jesse was someone who had such a bright future in that world, very very Tommy like in that sense, and then we just boom, stuff just gets taken away in an instant. And then the one of the beginning scenes, of course, when they're taking the arrow out of Dina's leg too, and the way, like, one little tiny detail that I heard them talk about this in the new Rockstars video too. I thought it was really cool, but the idea that you don't want to pull arrows out just because it's going to do more damage.
Right.
They had to push it all the way through, and so that made it look even more gnarly. Especially just because, like in TV, we're just so used to seeing everyone just pull everything out like this, and I'm like, no, that thing's pointed out like this. It's gonna just make a bigger hole than what came in.
Right.
So I just like that little detail, and like and how that's used to kind of foreshadow Jesse learning that Dina's pregnant too, because he's trying to offer the booze to kind of number her down. She's like, no, I don't want to do it, and like Dina's always drinking. Like, what are you talking about? But man, I would say some of the most pivotal points of the episode for me, other than obviously the very end at the theater, is the scene between Ellie, Owen, and Mel. What obviously any scene where Ellie is confronting one of Abby's friends so far has been pretty intense. Of course, obviously where she's just coming off of having tortured Nora for information, and of course we learned that she just left her there too, which is pretty harrowing as well. Like, she didn't just finish the job, she just left her there to die. So that's pretty brutal on her part. So she's still wrestling with that, and then she obviously has this moment with Owen and Mal, and it plays out a lot differently than in the game. Of course, like obviously there's more of a scuffle in the game that leads to both of them dying, and even a scuffle between Mel and Ellie that kind of leads to her getting killed by Ellie as well. But here it's played as more of an accident, of course, because Owen's more standing in the way of Mel, and obviously she just catches a stray bullet that kind of goes. I think it goes through Owen, and then it obviously hits her as well. I just like the way they kind of cut that, where you didn't know if it went past her at first, and then just the kind of slow reveal that did go through was one brutal, because it just seemed like a pretty a sad way for her to go, of course. But obviously they make the whole reveal of her being pregnant as well to Ellie a little bit different than in the game. But I do like that it still has that kind of same traumatic effect on Ellie that it does in the game as well. But I do think that the show did a little bit more of a job of trying to make Ellie seem not as bloodthirsty in this season, especially as way she is in the game. I think she's a lot more like driven on vengeance in the game, where she obviously she's willing to kill Owen and Mel in that situation, just like willingly. But here it's more of an accident. I think they want to just kind of humanize her a little bit more in that. So, but I like the way it's played. But thank God they didn't have her go any farther with the baby and stuff like that. That would have been brutal. I've seen that enough HBO shows already. I'm like, you guys love to do this crap. Like, no more. But yeah, I just like the way that plays too, and the way that Jesse and Tommy kind of get her out of there, right out there too, is just perfectly done. And yeah, I just thought for some of the scenes that were pretty much like shot by shot for the way they were in the game, that one was like a cool kind of like changed version of it that was still, I thought, worked for the way the show's been telling it. So yeah, I thought that was a really well done scene.
Yeah, and I think I do agree with you. They kind of ramped her vengeance a little bit down. Now she still has a one-track mind, and that's why she was willing to, we get the scene of fuck your community. And she leaves Jesse to go find Tommy alone, who they presume is the one that they're talking about that's pinned down, type of thing. But I do think, just like you were saying, we do get kind of these subtle things that kind of do make it make sense to everything, and we get that Scar and Wolf scene before the Ellie, Owen, and Mel scene, and that's where you kind of
the
see
parking
her
garage scene.
Yeah.
And
she wants to rescue this person that she has no affiliation with. She doesn't. She just thinks that this is wrong, what they're doing to him. So I think that kind of took a little bit of her vengeance, bloodlust out, and that at least it made sense as to why we get that scene later with Mel and Owen, and she's not as I'm just going to shoot like type of thing.
Yeah,
that's at least how I took that. Is they put that in there to kind of make a reference to why she's a little bit toned down there in that scene,
and it could give a reason for why it could be ramped up when obviously she has that conversation with Jesse in the theater before before Abby comes up, and he goes like, "You would burn the world down. That was me. Like that's why I came back for you, essentially." And then of course when that actually happens, now maybe that's now where we're gonna actually see that she's gonna be a little bit more more bloodthirsty, I would say. Absolutely. So I think now they want us to see that actual character arc in the show, because I think even a criticism of the game is that like her being that way was just not the Ellie that we knew from the first game as well. Like it just seems like two different characters. Obviously she's a lot older and a lot more things have happened to her, so I think it just makes sense as far as just growth as a human. But I think they just wanted us to see that growth in her character in the show, now that we've seen that all that she's already kind of losing in this sense. Like we've already seen her lose Joel, and now we've seen her lose Jesse as well. So it's like she's already losing two good friends of hers in this whole situation. So it's just gonna make her keep this going even more, right? It's just gonna become like a cycle of this beef just becomes like a cycle of violence.
Right, exactly. And I totally agree with you. And the thing I was gonna say for big takeaways is finally a theory that we've had for multiple recap episodes is right. The very end of the episode, we kind of get, we get the cut to black when Abby and everybody's in the theater and R.I.P. Jesse. But then like I actually was like, it's taking a really long time for credits to start. And then we get another scene, and it is an opening of Abby in the stadium, I guess the football stadium, and we get the words Seattle Day One. So boom. That is exactly what we've been saying, that we think, season 3 will start out like. We're getting the point of view of Abby in day 1, day 2, day 3, or however they're going to split that up and stuff like that. But like just going back a little bit in the events and now seeing it from Abby's perspective and getting all of the events leading up to their clash in Abby's perspective and stuff like that. Like the video game, where we kind of switched from perspectives between Abby and Ellie throughout it. But I think it would be I'm hoping this is how they do it. I think it'd be really cool to get a chunk of the beginning of season 3 from Abby's perspective, and then we can, just like the game, kind of grow more attached to the Abby character, because we really don't know. Like if we were just watching the show, we really wouldn't know too much about Abby. But like in this, we can really almost start season 3 as like this is your main character, Abby now, type of thing. And we could do a really cool thing with getting us more attached to Abby, and then some point in the season kind of have them going back and forth, and now we don't know which character kind of to root for. I guess root for is kind of the wrong terms in this situation, but we don't know the right character to kind of support, because all this whole time it's been Joel and Ellie, because they've always been our main characters type of thing. But if they, I keep saying we're not the ones writing season 3, sadly. But if they choose to kind of get us more attached to Abby for a big chunk of season 3, we're going to have that unique experience of, kind of having like people on opposite ends of like which character to them is more of the main character in season 3 type of thing. It could be really interesting. Like a viewing experience could be really interesting that way.
Yeah, I even think about like when Ellie lands on the Seraphai Island, right, and she gets taken, they're about to gut her, and everything. Like to them, if this whole thing was just being told from their perspective, and they saw this girl when they're having this war with these other humans over there, like why would they believe that she's not a wolf and they would just do what they normally do?
Right.
So like it's like to them, they're not wrong for what they're doing. Like of course it's wrong to us because we know just how humans morally should be and stuff. But this is the world obviously they live in. One of the best things about this whole game universe is kind of like drawing the lines between those the morally gray areas and stuff like that, of course, and it really just comes down to either survival or just like what kind of situation you're put in that particular moment. So yeah, I just like that we're gonna probably it's that same thing. I think Abby is just gonna be a great example of that when it comes to the idea of like the protagonist and the antagonist, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. You want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, I'm going to kick off predictions more with a question because, we kind of know the events of the video game. So we have a broad outline of things that need to happen next season and stuff like that. But my question is, because we've thrown it around, and not just us, but, creators of the show have thrown it around. Do you think we are going to get a fourth season? Nothing's been confirmed past season 3, but do you think we're going to get a fourth season?
At this point, I think so. I think there's enough in this third season coming out that you can stretch from the game into fill a season to give us more of the game in a fourth season as well. I think the show also does a great job of just adding a bunch of original content that can really benefit the story if it's missing some certain context and certain things. Like I always like when they take stuff that we see in certain levels of the game that's either like you're reading letters that you find in a desk and that can become the basis of a story itself. Bill and Frank obviously will be the biggest example, of course. Even using somebody like Eugene in the last episode as well. If you can find ways to kind of respin different characters, I think there's a lot you can work with when it comes to just building out this whole world. Because I think this is a world where you can even do spin-offs that have nothing to do with the game and just kind of tell stories, original stories in a cordyceps infested world too. So yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, and we were talking about this even before we started recording. It's just, it's the question that you need to ask because then you need to kind of plan out, how things are going to go in season 3 so that you don't, basically get too far ahead of yourself. And then season 4 has to be like a bunch of extra stuff before you can get to the stuff that you wanted to actually. Yeah. You don't want filler. You want good original content and good original stuff that adds, like supplements the story overall and stuff like that. So this is kind of like, this is what we were saying. It's kind of, this is the kind of the crucial time they have to choose before they start, finalizing the script for season 3 if they're going to do a season 4, because season 3 will be very different if they're not doing a season 4. You know what I mean? Like every episode is going to have chaos. There has to be a lot in that. But just like you said, if for sure they know secretly that they're getting a season 4 or they're writing as a season 4, we can do a lot of different things and have little additions here and there and really build out, an Abby story to start the season. We could do half the season just to start out the first 3 days that we, that we kind of ended the finale with. Type of thing. We could even start the first episode with flashbacks of when Abby's father was still alive and really build out a bunch to get like the audience, to identify with Abby and to get, used to her being kind of the character for a little while type of thing. There's so much they can do, and we're really not going to know until we get to episode 1 of season 3 how they're really going to, plan this out and stuff like that. Or we get a confirmation that there is a season 4, because I think, the writing's on the wall if we know that there's a season 4, how they're kind of going to spatially be able to do season 3.
Yeah, I was kind of scratching my head as to how they were going to fit this into 2 seasons, just in general. Especially when I found out this first season was going to be 7 episodes. I'm like, that's not enough time.
Yeah,
and exactly. I feel like after watching the second season, I can confirm, that's definitely not enough time because like again, I love the finale, but definitely like there was a couple moments in here that we could have stretched out a little bit more, maybe, or I just thought it would have taken longer to get there, I guess. Like I thought we would have had a little bit more, like a whole episode more on Ellie finding the aquarium and stuff like that. Maybe her exploring it a little bit more. Or even just like, that journey of her on getting to the boat and all that. I just thought that would have been stretched out just a little bit longer too. So yeah, for sure. I think we're gonna get a 4th season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess predictions is tough, like I was saying. But do you have anything that you're hoping to see in season 3? Like, or something that you're excited, looking forward to them covering a little bit more of in season 3 type of thing. Like I said, predictions is tough. We know kind of the rough outline of all of the events of the second game, so we know what has to happen. So predictions tough, just like we've always said in this. But like, what do you I guess looking forward to for season 3? What do you want to see if you can get anything more expanded? Is there something you would want to get more expanded for season 3?
Yeah, I'm glad it's going to be 9 episodes long, because that's exactly what the first season was like, and I thought that was a perfect kind of length for the story that they told for the first game. I also think that when I was thinking about that when it comes to the second game and the first game also had the benefit of having an whole episode dedicated to a DLC as well, with the whole kind of Ellie throwback stuff. It'd be great if the second game had some kind of like story expansion too that would help it kind of flow out a little bit more. But it doesn't really need it to, because it's also a massive game in general. But yeah, I think since we got a big introduction into groups like the Seraphites and the Wolves this year, obviously we end the season with the shot of course Abby at the Seahawks Stadium, right? One thing I love when she kind of first of all, the whole kind of like way they shot her kind of getting out of her bed and everything, and then like walking up to the hallway, completely like the game. Like it's actually kind of gave you like a game POV shot from her back when she's walking down the hallway, and I was like, this is like they definitely did that on purpose to make you feel like you're kind of like in that the way they kind of shoot the game POV of the character. And like I was like, so that was actually one of my favorite shots of the whole episode, just because it just kind of I felt like I was watching someone play a live action version of the game, like that or something like that. So that was just really cool. But yeah, I'm excited to see just kind of like the dynamic between Abby and Isaac, because that was something that was also kind of hinted at in this episode as well, when Lonnie's mom Park comes in and talks to Isaac, and he's like, "Are you in love with her or something?" And he's just like, no, she's like the next leader. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, so I want to see like kind of like that kind of I don't want to say like Palpatine Vader like relationship, but it's just that okay, master and apprentice. Okay, that's probably the easier way to say it, but just because the way that we've seen Isaac kind of be like this kind of sadistic dude, I'm immediately thinking to be like, yeah, Palpatine Vader kind of dynamic, right? But yeah, I'm excited to see some more of that, obviously. Yeah, I mean, so going with day one, but from Abby's POV, I think it's gonna be kind of cool to kind of see what she does in that whole timeline while Ellie's doing what she's doing, and seeing how they probably just miss each other in certain areas too. Yeah, I think they hinted that a couple times in this episode. Again, mainly when Ellie hits the Sapphire Island, because I don't think she does that in the game, where she just randomly lands on the island and then gets back over to the aquarium because they let her go. And then of course, then they all run away because they hear commotion. So we obviously know that's something that was being dealt with on the Isaac side too, because you hear them mention the island of course. So yeah, I'm excited that we're kind of seeing like this, like POV 1, POV 2 kind of a thing when it comes to certain events too. So like when we watch next season, we'll be like, oh, I remember that from last season. Like that's what they're doing. So the way they'll be able to tie in to certain things, without making Ellie like a prominent part of the story too. Like you said, like if we're gonna have something that features Abby like in prominently and makes her almost like a secondary main character to the show, kind of taking the place of Joel in a sense, then yeah, you're gonna kind of have to find ways to integrate what Ellie could be doing during that time, just to get us, keeping her in our heads again. Like the way they keep Abby in our minds during the show is just through the mention of her in the dialogue, especially when when Ellie's looking for her through Nora and Owen and Mel, of course. So I think that's going to be the way too. Like they keep each other's names in their head because they're being mentioned to different people throughout. So I think it's going to be interesting to see that, and obviously the dynamic between her and her friends as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. I'm looking forward to season 3. Do we have an ETA? Is it a year from now?
Next year, yeah, straight up. A year from now.
Oh, it's next year. Oh wow.
I think so.
Hopefully, fingers crossed we get it in 2026. That would be awesome. But in the meantime, As we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of the season 2 finale? And you know what? What are you hoping to see in a season 3? And do you think we are getting a season 4? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Popping Off presents That Recap Show.